See, I don't know how many joined actually. We are
Totally,
actually, yeah,
we
one,
have
two, three,
of
four, six.
yeah, Nag, Naresh, Rashwant Reddy, Rohit, and then Bhargav, Kiran.
Kiran, yeah, Kiran, yeah. See, probably we might expect one or couple more guys. Okay, let's wait
Okay,
for a couple of seconds. And before that, let's actually we can discuss about the course structure and all the stuff. I can, Prakash.
sure.
See, what we are expecting is, see, I mean, you are gonna teach both SOA and OSB in this class, or only BPEL,
Both.
both, plus
Yeah,
BAM. I mean, BAM. It's not. I think you can cover overall, I guess, so BAM also.
yeah. Just we can have the introduction to that.
Yeah, but one main thing is, Prakash, I mean, are you gonna teach this parallelly, or once you gonna complete the SOA and next? Actually, we need it parallelly, Prakash.
Yeah. So,
क्लास
since
में इधर गया
once
Can,
we
can,
I think someone
Prakash,
is not in mute. Others, please go on mute so that we can have a clear audio. So once we start the Oracle SOA, so after 10 to 15 sessions, we can start the OSB. The reason is once we start the SOA, we'll be knowing like what is a web service, what is XSD, how a service looks, and then what are the adapters, how to design a process. All those things will be covered. So once we cover those things in SOA, then we will be starting the OSB. Why is this? Because whatever we do in SOA, we will be showing the similarly doing it in OSB. So I can start the OSB after 10 to 15 sessions of SOA getting completed. The reason is I can't start the OSB initially. Why? Because once we understand how the SOA behaves and then how the things done in SOA, then if I start the OSB, then we'll be able to know the difference between the implementation in SOA and then the OSB.
okay, got you. Prakash, can you also do me a favor? Can you ping me your, or else I will take your number from Satya, and also we can talk it and discuss offline after this class regarding this.
Sure. Yeah, and what's your current status? Like, are you working on this particular technology or?
Yeah, I'm working on SOA only, Prakash.
Okay.
I mean, I think rest all are actually still they are yet to work. They are actually they're pursuing their masters. They're going to graduate on by this December.
Okay.
Only myself actually, it's my I'm just started working on SOA.
Okay. Okay. So you have started implementing Oracle SOA, right?
Yeah, I'm working with Cognizant as of now.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, I think
others,
we have very good.
and others are just like OPT or they could be SCPT students who are about to get into
Yeah,
the jobs, right?
everyone are OPT students.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Then we can start up, right?
Yeah, we can start taking questions.
Yeah. Sure. Market, and then we will see the architecture of all those things. Okay. So before getting into this SOA, so let's see a brief introduction like what's happening in today's companies. If you take like any organization, irrespective of any domain, whatever it could be a telecom or it could be a banking or it could be a retail, whatever may be, they may be having yes units involved. So they may be having multiple units like a HR department, finance, and then call center. So they can have HR, which does the HR activities, and then they can have finance, and then they can have call center, and then they can have some manufacturing units. So based on their n number of units, we call them as units. In order to manage or in order to maintain these units, so they'll be going for a ERP application. So what does that ERP is nothing but a application which will help the organization to manage the units someone is not in mute. Guys, please go on mute. Please self-mute.
Prakash, probably you can mute all these guys, Prakash. That's better.
Yeah, yeah, now I think they are in mute. Okay, so we'll be having the ERP. So what does this is? This is nothing but a process which will help to maintain or to manage various applications that we have in an organization. So let's take for example for HR, they may be using some Oracle HRMS or PeopleSoft, whatever whatever the requirement there is, they can use the appropriate ERP application. So we have various set of ERP applications, and then we have various vendors who provides ERP applications, basically like Oracle, SAP, Microsoft. So there are various products. So based on their requirement, they may be going to a appropriate application, like SAP Finance is one of the application. And then for call center, they can go for some Civil CRM. And then for they can go for MFG. So based on their requirement, they can take the appropriate ERP application, they can implement in their modules. So what happens is, in order to have all these things to be running properly, so there should be a ERP application which will help the client to manage their activities. That is nothing but we call it as ERP. So ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So what it does is, it's nothing but a process which will help the organizations to manage the units. So for that they have the ERP applications available. So ERP is just a concept. So there are various vendors who provide solution for the various ERP applications. So this is how generally we'll be having in a real time. So it could be, it no need to be a ERP, it can be some Java application as well. But nowadays we are not doing any hard coding framework which starts from starting to ending. So we will be going for a ready-made thing that is nothing but the ERP applications, and then we will start customizing based on our needs. So it no need to be like this. There can be other applications. There can be a .NET application which they can design their UI, all those things. So apart from this, there can be the other things as well. So what happens is, at one point of time, one application need to exchange the information with the other. Let's take like HR. HR is using some PeopleSoft CRM, so it needs to exchange the information with finance. Let's assume that if HR team is going to get a recruitment, then it needs to integrate with finance for their approval or for financial transactions, whatever. So what I mean to say is, at one point of time, one application need to exchange the information with the other. So technically speaking, they may be using a different database, they may be using a different application. Here also they may be using some different database and then different applications. So one application need to exchange the information with the other application. So similarly, finance and then the call center and then the call center and then the manufacturing. So here comes the integration. So what does it mean is, at one point of time, one application, so instead of calling it as application, one source need to exchange the information with the other. So source, in a sense, it could be a application, or it could be a database, or it could be some file system, or it could be some queue, it could be anything. So from one source to the other, we need to exchange the information. So there comes the integration. So we will be integrating those systems. So in order to integrate, we have the integration coming up. So are we good up to know like where exactly we need to integrate the systems? So one application need to exchange the information with the other. So in order to do that, we need to do the integration. So here comes the integration. So if you have any queries, just let me know. So I think you are self-muted, you can unmute and then we can have the conversation. Okay, so if you have any queries, just let me know. So this just gives an introduction about how the applications look and then what all the things. Okay, so now let me take a simple scenario that we are doing the integration. So let's assume that here I have some SAP system, and then here I have some Oracle system, and then here we have the database. So this SAP application, it takes the account information, So this SAP application, what it does is it will deals with the accounts. Okay, this Oracle system deals with the contacts. Okay, so what is a account is nothing but if I open a if I have a relationship with some Citibank, then they call them as we are the account holders. So it no need to be a bank. If I have some internet connection, so from the client perspective they will be calling as account. So for one account we can have n number of contacts. If you take like Microsoft, so Microsoft has n number of contacts globally. So those things, let's assume that maintained in some Oracle application. So if any account comes up, we are going to insert into the database. So instead of directly inserting the account alone into the database, let's assume that I need to identify all the contacts belonging to that account and then I need to store it. Nothing but if I have a account A1, I need to identify the contacts belonging to that account and then I'll be storing it into the database, such that in future if I query with A1, account A1, I should be able to know what are the contacts belonging to that. Okay, so nothing but if any account comes up in the SAP system, instead of directly storing it into the database, identify the contacts belonging to that account and then store it into the database. So for that purpose, SAP sends a request to Oracle to identify the contacts. So Oracle writes some logic to identify the contacts of that account and then send it to a database, and then database does the insertion and then it replies back saying that data records are inserted properly, and then Oracle will respond back to SAP. So this is an integration. So we are integrating these three systems, SAP, Oracle, and then the DB. So SAP sends a request to Oracle, Oracle writes some logic to identify the context, send the request to DB. Once the records are inserted, reply back to Oracle. Similarly, Oracle will reply back to SAP. So this is a integration. So here, this kind of integration, we call it as tightly coupled integration. So why we call it as tightly coupled integration is SAP is tightly bounded with Oracle. Oracle is tightly bounded with DB. Let's assume that Oracle is down. SAP is trying to connect to Oracle, but Oracle is down. So SAP won't be able to proceed further. Okay, why? Because this is tightly integrated with this. If this system is down, it can't proceed further. Let's assume that database is down. SAP has sent a request to Oracle. Oracle is trying to connect to a database. Database is down. So SAP doesn't know what is happening on the other end. And then if there is any change in one system, all these systems need to be informed about the change. Change in the sense if they have gone for an upgrade, there will be change in the host names or there may be change in the ports, all those things. So all these systems has to be informed about this. So if you take in real time, we may be integrating with n number of systems. Okay, so if one system goes down, the other downstream systems or downstream applications will be impacted. Okay, that should not be the scenario. So that's why this tightly coupled integration was redesigned with a concept. So here I have this SAP, and then here I have the Oracle system, and then here I have the database, and then here comes a layer called as SOA. So in this type of integration, how it will be is these systems will just have a connectivity with a layer called as SOA. So these types of integrations, we call it as loosely coupled integration. So here if you see, SAP is having a connectivity with a layer called as SOA, similarly Oracle, similarly database. So in this case what happens is SAP will send a request to SOA. SOA will write a logic to connect to Oracle, get the contacts from there, send those details to DB, and then once it gets back a response, this SOA responds back to SAP and then the Oracle. So with this, what's the advantage is applications or systems are free or independent. So one is not depending on the other. So in this case, SAP system no need to know what is Oracle, where it resides, what's the details of that machine. It no need to bother. Just maintain a connectivity with the layer called as SOA. So this SOA will take care of integrating with those systems, getting the information, and then doing these things. So let's assume that SAP has sent a request to SOA. If Oracle is down, so this SOA will be writing a logic, so that we call it as web services. So we will be designing the web services. What we do in the, so the logic or the code or the program that we write is nothing but a web services. So these web services will interact with any sources. So here I am calling it as a sources, not a application. In a sense, it can interact with the application, it can interact with the database, it can interact with the file system, it can interact with the queue, it can interact with any external sources. So we will write a web services. So if Oracle is down, this web service will send a notification to Oracle admin or to the appropriate person saying that boss, your system is down. So then they will take a action. Once it is up, this service again will send a request to Oracle, get the things processed, and then send it to DB, all these things. So SAP, once it sends a request to SOA, it no need to bother about what is happening on the other end. In this case, SAP keep on trying it. SAP system has its own functionality to perform it. So if one system is down, it keep on trying and then it keep on monitoring. It will impact the application's performance. So the purpose of SAP is for something else. So instead of focusing on that, if it focus on these kind of things, the application performs decade. So with this, what happen is applications become free from load. It no need to depend on any other external systems. It does not matter what systems are it. Just have a connectivity this way. There could be 100 systems in an organization that it need to interact with, but it no need to bother. Just send a request to SOA. So we, SOA developers, design the services, connect to those systems, get the information, and then process it. And then we do here. So these type of integrations called as loosely coupled integration. So this loosely coupled integration we have achieved with the help of a layer called as SOA. So SOA stands for Service Oriented Architecture. So is it clear the difference between this type of integration and then this type of integrations? If you have any queries, just unmute and then let me know. So we are good, right? So if anyone has any queries, just let me know. Okay. So now let's come back to our slides here. So that's what today's what's happening is. So the expectation on these applications or more. So in order to do that, we'll be going for the ERP application. So what is ERP? Just we have seen. So we have a concept called as SOA, which is Service Oriented Architecture, is fundamentally a loosely coupled computing paradigm. So we are able to see, right, what is loosely and then what is tightly. So this is what loosely coupled integration is, that we are able to achieve with the help of a layer called as SOA. So here we'll be calling it as one layer. Okay, so SOA generally we call it as a layer between the systems. Okay, so SOA is an architectural framework for software design that works around the concepts of service. So nothing but we call them as web services, so we'll be calling it as services. So SOA is a concept. Okay, so where we have various vendors who provides solutions for SOA. So like a TIPCO, and then like SOA, and then like WebSphere. So these are the various vendors, nothing but vendors like IBM, Oracle, Microsoft. There are various vendors who provides solutions for this SOA. So among those we have Oracle, which provides the solution called as Oracle SOA for this SOA concept. Okay, so are we good up to now? Like what is, I mean, in which scenario we should go for integration, and then what's the difference between loosely and then the tightly coupled, and then what's the concept of SOA? Okay, so once we are good at these things, then we have various vendors who provide solution for this SOA. Okay, so why should I go for Oracle SOA? From a developer perspective, why should I learn Oracle? From a client perspective, why should I select Oracle SOA? So these questions will definitely come up. So before getting into that, let's see the evolution of Oracle SOA, how Oracle has brought up this Oracle SOA. Okay, so we all know that Oracle has come up with a database, nothing but which is RDBMS, Relational Database Management. So which is a very popular database right now in the market as well. So later on, Oracle has decided to provide a single ERP solution for a client. Single ERP solution or product. Single ERP product. Single in the sense, if you see, right now we have various vendors who provides ERP solutions, as I told, like SAP and then Oracle, Microsoft. There are n number of vendors which we might not be aware of. So if I want to implement an integration, then I need to buy the various products from various vendors. If SAP is providing the ERP, I can't get all the ERP products from SAP. Why? Because one could be a cost effective, and the other thing is that product may not be fit to my requirement. So in those cases, we may need to go for some other ERP and then we need to buy it. So instead of all these things, Oracle has decided, so let's provide one single product which have all the ERP applications. If client wants to use those things, let them enable and then use it. So with that concept, it has come up with Oracle Fusion. So which we might have heard about this term called as Fusion. So what is this? Is nothing but Oracle Fusion is nothing but a single product which is going to provide the entire ERP solution. So within this Oracle Fusion, again we have two types. One is Oracle Fusion applications, and then we have Oracle Fusion middleware. Okay, so within these Fusion applications, there are various things that comes up. Okay, so like Fusion CRM, and then all the Oracle applications. So right now we have various Oracle applications like Oracle Finance, Oracle HCM. There are some hundreds of Oracle applications that are available based on their client requirement. They may be using it, and then there are some JD Edwards. So there are various applications. So all those applications falls under this Oracle Fusion. Coming to the Fusion middleware, Oracle SOA and then OSB. So these are the various Oracle Fusion middleware products that it comes up here. Okay, so based on the client requirement, they can go for any Fusion application, whatever they want. Okay, but the default could be Oracle Fusion middleware. So here the intention of having this Oracle Fusion, middleware is client can use any Fusion application. So if they need to integrate within these, Oracle Fusion middleware will be a layer, which does not means that Oracle Fusion middleware integrates only the Oracle Fusion applications. Okay, so if you take like any SOA, there is no restriction saying that that product works only for that vendor's products. SOA is nothing but service-oriented architecture. It should be able to integrate with any system which understands the XML. If a system is able to understand XML, we will be able to integrate it. So that's the concept of SOA. So it's not, if Oracle implements this, it does not mean that Oracle SOA can be used only for Oracle products. SOA in the sense, it could be any SOA. So as per the standards, it should be able to integrate with any system that can understand XML. So nowadays we don't have any system which does not understand XML. Okay, so this is what the architecture, and then Oracle has come up with Oracle Fusion, and then it has categorized into this. So if Oracle is providing product, why should I go for Oracle Fusion? Definitely a client will think, and then developer will also think that if Oracle is providing Oracle Fusion, why should I go for Oracle Fusion? Okay, so there are various strong reasons for that. So before implementing this Oracle SOA, if you see what happens at Oracle end is, Oracle has started acquiring various popular products in the market. If you what is this? I'm getting some disturbance. Okay, so if you see, Oracle has started acquiring various popular products. It's not like a recent thing. If you see, from past 15 years, it started acquiring it. So we all know that Sun Microsystem, which is related for Java, which was acquired by Oracle, and then if you see Siebel CRM, which is a very popular CRM in the market, which is running from past 20 years, which was acquired by Oracle. So this is basically for call center. And then JD Edwards, and then Halley, which is some rule engine. And then there are various products which we are not aware of. And then if you see BA WebLogic server. Okay, so what's the reason of acquiring all these things is, these are all the various popular products. If you see Siebel CRM, which is running from past 20 years in the market, if you take like any client, if they are having some call center, then the default application will be Siebel CRM. Okay, so that's popular it is. And then PeopleSoft, if any client is having HRMS related activities, they'll be going for PeopleSoft CRM. So we all know about Java. Okay, what is Java, and then what's the importance of Java. And then if you see WebLogic server, so which is a very popular application server. Application server is nothing but a server on which the web services will be running. You might have heard about Tomcat, Apache, Eclipse. So among all those things, BA WebLogic server is a very popular application server which was acquired by Oracle. So like this, it started acquiring various popular products. It has taken all the features of these and then it has come up with Oracle Fusion. So stable wise, for sure it will be more stable compared to the other ERP applications that are available. The reason is all those popular products was acquired by Oracle, and then those features was used within this Oracle Fusion. If you see here, they are calling it as Fusion CRM. So this Fusion CRM is a combination of PeopleSoft CRM, Siebel CRM plus Oracle CRM. Okay, so all these CRMs are merged up and it has come up with some feature called as Oracle Fusion CRM. So few applications are already running in market, few are about to come up. Okay, so irrespective of what Fusion applications, our Fusion middleware is a different platform. We can tell it as it's a separate entity anyhow. And then if you see, we have Oracle SOA. So why should I go for Oracle SOA compared to other products that are available in the market? So the products like TIBCO and then the WebLogic server, all these things. So we have various reasons for going this Oracle Fusion middleware. The first thing is this entire Oracle Fusion runs on a WebLogic server. So this WebLogic server is nothing but a BA product which was acquired by Oracle, and then this is going to be used in our Oracle Fusion. So what's the importance of this WebLogic server is, this is nothing but a very popular application server which can hold or which can run parallelly n number of things, n number of services compared to the other application servers, and then this is based on J2W standards, nothing but it will run on Java, so it will run on a JDK. Okay, so which is based on the Java, so it's nothing but a J2W application like which will process all this thing. So that we call it as a WebLogic server, which is a very popular application server in the market. So all these things run on this. And then coming to SOA, we have a concept called as business rules. So where we write the rules. Okay, so why this business rules has become important nowadays is, so nowadays customers are not willing to share all their rules to the developers. Let's take like a banking. So the bank has decided to reduce the rate of interest from next week onwards. Okay, it is of 16%. They want to reduce it to 13%. So they can't expose. I think someone is not in mute. Please. Okay, so someone is not in mute. Okay, so that kind of decisions they can't ask some TCS employee, boss, implement this and then expose it. The reason is that's a security. If someone leaks to some other banks, so then they'll become a competitor. With 12.5 they can come up into the market. So all these things they can't share it to the developers. That is one thing. And then these kind of changes they'll be expecting within hours to be implemented. The reason is because of the market standards or because of the market competition. So one thing is they should have some security over the rules that are defined, and the other one is that should become effective immediately. If you take like any coding, developer has to do that. If client wants himself do that, he need to hire a developer, he need to make his employee, and then he need to hire him privately. Okay, reason this business rule will help us to change the values dynamically, for which no need to have a developer. So we have a application where we can change the rules, where the business analyst or the client, he himself can change the rules. So earlier it was 16%, he can change it to 12%, he click on save, that's it. So the rules will be changed and then that becomes effective from then onwards. It no need to go for any deployment, it no need to require any downtime of the server, it no need to depend on anyone else. So that's the feature of business rules. So this business rule history, if you see, earlier we had Hali, which was acquired by Oracle. So those things are used in our SOA, nothing but we have a component called as business rules, which will help us to define the rules. If you take in other SOA products, we don't have this concept. If they want to implement this, they need to get the third-party product, use it, and integrate explicitly. So built-in, we won't be getting it. And then similarly, we have the other task, other component called as human task, which will help us to assign the task to a person based on the person's response. Nothing but if bank decides that if anyone is making a credit transaction of more than $5,000, then bank has to approve it. Nothing but the appropriate manager has to approve it. Then what happens is during our process, there should be a task that should be assigned to some person. If he approves it, the transaction should complete. If he rejects it, the transaction has to close it. Nothing but in between the process. So if I make any credit purchase, that will become the account will be debited from a credit card and then it will be credited to the merchant. Okay, so that's what happens. So in between this, a human intervention is involved. Nothing but in between this transaction, a human is going to be involved. Nothing but going to involve for approving it. In those cases, we'll be going for a human task. Whereas if you take like other products, we don't have this component available. In order to use this, get some third party, integrate with that explicitly. Okay, and then we have the architecture called as JC architecture. So earlier we might have heard about JDBC. So which is nothing but Java database connectivity, which will help us to connect to a database. So that's a concept of Java. So that was a revised one, which we call it as JCA, Java Connectivity Architecture, which will help us to connect to various sources like database, file system, queues. So all those are the various things. So with the help of this concept, we will be able to connect it. This was based on a Java, nothing but J2EE. So I'm using the word called as Java J2EE, which means that I won't be writing any code there. Okay, so those are the concepts. Okay, those are the concepts which was used or which was available in Java, which doesn't mean that we need to write some Java code for achieving that. So those are the things that will be running on the JDK. Why? Because our entire WebLogic server runs on a JDK, nothing but on the Java. Okay, so which doesn't mean that we'll be writing some Java code in SOA. That is different thing. Okay, these are the standards. And then we have this JMS server, JMS queue. So if we have like queuing mechanisms, so we'll discuss like when should we go for queue, what's the importance of queue, all these things once we get into it. So we have these queues. So in order to have any queues to be used, we need to get a license from a different vendors like MQs, Microsoft queues, IBM has its own GMS. So similarly, if you take like SOA, with the WebLogic server itself, we will be getting a default queue available which we can use it. We no need to have any licensing for that. In the other SOA products, we need to get an external queues and then we need to configure and then we need to use it. So like this, there are various features available in SOA, because of which the implementation of SOA is high irrespective of Fusion application. So these Fusion applications, few applications are already in the market. Most of them are about to come up. So once those applications comes up, then the default will be Oracle Fusion middleware, where Oracle SOA will be used. So irrespective of that, we have separately running this Fusion middleware irrespective of what applications they use. Okay, so are we good up to now, or do you have any queries? If you have any queries, just let me know. Are we good? Okay. So just let me show you just the so if you see here, this was the earlier integration where each and everything is getting connected. So that was overcome with EBS, nothing but Enterprise Business Suite, nothing but our Oracle SOA, where the applications will just have a connectivity with those things. It no need to have one application connected to each other. So these applications can be connected, but no need to be. So it can directly have a connectivity with this. This will integrating with those systems. So coming to Oracle SOA Suite, like what we have discussed, if you see the architecture, so we have the mediator, business rule, BPL, human workflow, CEP, nothing but all these are the various components. So we have seen business rule component, we have seen human task component. Similarly, we have BPL, which is for business process designing. So we have mediator for routing purpose. By using these components, we will be designing the services. With the help of this JCA architecture, we will be connecting to the external sources. So it no need to be Oracle, it could be some IBM system, it could be some Microsoft system, it could be some PeopleSoft, it could be some CBEL, it could be some SAP. So it's not only particular to anything. Why? Because this is a SOA, it should be able to integrate with any system which is able to understand the XML. So through this it will be corrected. So coming to this, the version, the current version that we are using is 11G. So initial version was 10G, which was in 2006 around. So in 2008 we got this 11G, which is a very standard version compared to 10G, so which was the current running version in the market. Okay. So coming to the training wise, okay, so for learning this SOA, we no need to have a background required. So background required in the sense, just a minute. In the sense, there are no prerequisites. Reason is, this is a product which will be using a UI framework, dropping it, and then we'll be designing the services. So for learning this, we no need to have any programming required. We need to have the knowledge on the XML concepts. So anyhow, as part of the training, first we'll be covering the XML concepts. So XML concepts in the sense like what is XML, what is XSD, what is WSDL, what is SOAP. So those are the XML concepts. So during the training we'll be covering it. Apart from that, we no need to have any prerequisites or any background skills required for learning this. Okay, so here whatever we are viewing here, we call this as a Z developer, which is nothing but a IDE. So IDE is nothing but integrated development environment, where we have Eclipse, which can be used for various products. Similarly, Oracle has its own IDE called as Oracle Z Developer. So this is the tool in which we'll be designing our services. So for designing the services, it's not a coding, or we no need to do any coding. So we'll be having the set of things available. We'll be dragging and then dropping, and then we'll be designing those. Okay, so for this we won't be writing any coding. Everything is going to be a drag and drop. So the thing that we need to learn is which has to be used when, and then how that has to be used. So we have discussed about the business rule, the human task, all these things, right? So we have these things, how this has to be used, and then when this has to be used based on the requirement, what has to be used. So it will be like this. So everything is a drag and drop. So what we need to know is when and then how it has to be used. Okay, so this training is going to be 100% practical. So it's not a theory where we can go through some slides or where I can explain the concept theoretically. So each and every concept will be explained with the example. The reason is this is a 100% practical, what you say, technology. Okay, so everything has to be designed. For everything, an example will be provided. We'll be designing it, we'll be deploying it to the server, and then we'll be testing it. So for that reason, we'll be covering the installations as well. So we'll be having the installations installed on each of our machines, where we can independently design it, deploy it, test it. So the end-to-end will happen. Okay, so if you guys have any queries, just let me know. Anything generic or anything related to SOA.
Prakash, you were telling about B2B, right? I mean, where do we use B2B?
B2B, that comes in case of documents exchange. Suppose if I have some client. Let's assume that my client is some Citibank. Okay, or before that, let's take like Cisco. Okay, Cisco is a company which has various network products available. So it needs to exchange the documents. So suppose if someone pays the payment to Citi, so it needs to send the document to Citibank. So they can't send as an attachment. Let's assume that a check. It can't send a check as an attachment. So in between this, we'll be having a layer called as B2B, business to business, which exchange the document. So what it does is, actually this is basically for security purpose, and then we'll be having the data to be mapped parallelly. So this is mainly for document exchange, nothing but e-document, e-delivery of a document. So in those cases, we'll be going for a B2B.
Okay, how we are going to implement this B2B? Do we have any separate idea or just a JDeveloper?
No, that is a separate thing. So we have a B2B console similar to our EM. So there we'll be designing who is the partner, who is going to send to whom, what he is going to send, all those things, and then we'll be using the Z developer during our process like a B2B adapter, which will send the document to BTB. BTB from there sends to the partners.
Okay, B2B is part of our Fusion suite.
Yes, so similar to our here we have B2B, and then we have BPM,
BAM,
and then BAM we can't call it as explicitly, just a minor one which goes yeah, you can call it as separately as well. There are various Fusion products like OAM for management. So like this, there are various products. So coming to the middleware integration perspective, these are all the similar kind. If you take like ADF, that's a different thing, which is a page designing, which is a UI work, that's a separate thing again. So that's not related to integration, I can tell it as, but it falls under fusion middleware.
Yeah.
Okay. So any queries? Okay, so this is what, like if you have any queries, just let me know. Okay, so we can discuss it. So if not, we can wind up the session.
What about the duration of the course, Prakash?
Yeah, coming to SOA. So SOA will take like to 30 hours.